Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that cross the synaptic gap between neurons. Neurotransmitters travel from a sending neuron and bind to receptor sites of a receiving neuron, influencing whether the neuron will generate a neural impulse. An agonist is a molecule that, by binding to its receptor site, stimulates a response, and an antagonist is a molecule that, by binding to its receptor site, inhibits or blocks a response. Frida is experiencing memory loss. Her doctor just diagnosed her with Alzheimer's. This neurotransmitter enables muscle action, learning, and memory. Frederica has started hearing and seeing things. This neurotransmitter influences movement, learning, attention, and emotion. Frederica's friend Susan suffers from Parkinson's disease. This can be a result of an undersupply of the same neurotransmitter. Freddie is experiencing symptoms of depression from an undersupply of a neurotransmitter that affects mood, hunger, sleep, and arousal. Frito is also experiencing symptoms of a depressed mood from an undersupply of a neurotransmitter, but this neurotransmitter helps control alertness and arousal. Fez suffers from seizures, tremors, and insomnia from an undersupply of this neurotransmitter, which is a major inhibitory transmitter. Philo suffers from an oversupply of a major excitatory neurotransmitter that produces migraines or seizures.
Oh man, I'm screwed for this upcoming psych test. I didn't even study for it. My heart is racing and I have butterflies in my stomach. I hate this feeling.
Don't worry about that. It's just your nervous system acting up.
What's that?
It's your body's speedy communication network consisting of your peripheral and central nervous systems.
What's the difference between the two of them?
Well, the central nervous system contains the brain and the spinal cord, also known as the body's decision maker.
Ah, that's pretty cool.
While the peripheral nervous system is a little more complicated. It connects the sensory and motor neurons to the central nervous system. Then that breaks down into two things: the autonomic system, controlling self-regulated action of integral organs, while the somatic sense system controls voluntary movements.
Wow, that's really cool, but how does that relate to my heart racing?
Well, I'm not done. The autonomic system breaks down the sympathetic nervous system, which arouses the body, which explains your heart rate increase, and eventually the parasympathetic nervous system will kick in, calming you.
Well, I think my parasympathetic
You should have just kept going. Hello, are you the parent or guardian?
Yes, I am. Is my son going to be okay?
I'm not entirely sure. We want to monitor him over the next few weeks.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
We want to take a scan. There are 4 different scans we can do.
Oh, which one do you think you're going to do?
Well, we don't want to give him an EEG because that monitors brain waves of electrical activity and does not see what is damaged. That kind of scan would be more helpful with seizures. A PET scan is also out of the picture because it gives us a visual display of brain activity that detects where a radioactive form of glucose goes when the brain performs a task. A PET scan would be more helpful in recognizing different types of cancers. We could give him an MRI. This will give pictures of soft tissue, but we want to give him a CT scan, which will take several X-ray photographs that will reveal brain damage. Okay, the results are in. The scan revealed damage to the motor cortex, which is part of the cerebral cortex, a thin layer of interconnecting neurons.
Oh, what does that mean?
The motor cortex controls voluntary movement, which will limit him on his basic movements.
Oh my goodness.
He was lucky that he did not receive damage to his somatosensory cortex, which... somatosensory... I hate myself. Okay, Fred, we scheduled your corpus callosum for Wednesday. Do you have any questions before you come in?
Actually, yes. For starters, what exactly is a corpus callosum?
Your corpus callosum is a large band of neural fibers that connect the 2 brain hemispheres and carry messages between them.
And how is my corpus callosum affecting my seizures?
We believe that your seizures are caused by the amplification of abnormal brain activity bouncing back and forth between the 2 cerebral hemispheres. By severing the corpus callosum, you have a condition called split brain that isolates the brain's 2 hemispheres, stopping the abnormal brain activity.
Oh, I see. Congratulations. Looks like you're going to have fraternal twins.
What's the difference between identical and fraternal twins?
Well, fraternal twins come from 2 separate eggs that share the same fetus, while identical twins develop from 1 shared fertilized egg that splits into 2.
I wonder who they will look like more, me or my husband.
Well, that depends on the genes which they inherit from you that make up segments of their DNA. And the DNA makes up chromosomes, and you receive 26 from you and 26 from your husband.
Oh, so that's what heritability means.
No, heritability is a variation among individuals that we attribute to genes.
We now look at Frederick from the lens of evolutionary psychology, the study of evolution of behavior and mind through the principles of natural selection. Natural selection is the principle that the traits that contribute to reproduction and survival will most likely be passed on to succeeding generations. Looking at Frederick from a biopsychosocial approach, first we will look at the biological influences that contribute to his individual development. Shared human genome, individual genetic variations, prenatal environment, sex-related genes, hormones, and physiology. Looking at the psychological influences that contribute to Frederick's individual development are genes, environment, interaction, neurological effect of early experiences, responses evoked by our own personality and gender, beliefs, and expectations. Looking at social cultural influences of Frederick's individual development are prenatal influences, peer influences, cultural attitudes and norms, and cultural gender norms. This whole theory of evolution began from Charles Darwin's theory and is an organizing principle in biology. He anticipates today's application of evolutionary principles in psychology.
Oh man, the brainstem, it's so old. Medulla in the thalamus within, you should have been told. They're needed for survival, man, it ain't no joke. Without the medulla, you would just go choke. Cerebellum, also known as the little brain, helps you with your balance so you can maintain the nerve network called reticular formation. Controls arousal of all people across the nations. Amygdala, hippocampus, hypothalamus. Hope you know the limbic system includes all of this. The amygdala, neural clusters linked to emotion. Like when your hands are dry and you're angry because you need some lotion. Maintenance activities, emotion, and reward. The hypothalamus, man, is important, unlike Ward. Remember what Miss LaFay said about the hippocampus? Think about a hippo lying on a college campus. The cerebral cortex is where a lot of info will enter. The body's ultimate control and processing center. The glial cells are helpful by detecting all these neurons, yo. Now let me tell you about the other lobes. Without the frontal lobes, you wouldn't know how to speak. They also help with planes of judgment, so they say on fleek. Don't forget about the motor cortex in the rear, controlling voluntary movements like you're switching gears. I know if you're near, I'll be able to hear, thanks to the temporal lobes connected to my ears. In order to feel, the parietal lobes are essential. They give your sense of touch all sorts of good potential. Damage to the occipital lobes can cause you to be blind. Without your eyesight, man, you could be left in a bind. I hope you learned a lot about the structure of the brain, or else I'd be unfortunate and also really lame. Kinda like this rap, but it's all good.